Hi everyone, my name is Moonshine and I want to welcome you all to today's AMA with Elvove token, which is a decentralized finance platform. In today's AMA, we would see how this team plans to offer users access to tokenized real-world assets, private lending pools, and trading opportunities in bonds and global currencies. It's going to be a very interesting AMA as we see that they plan to go into real life. So we are going to see how this is going to incentivize everyone who is listening in today's AMA. So with that, we have David here with us. David, welcome again to GoldDiggers AMA. With that, I'd like you to introduce yourself and also other teammates who are behind Elvove and how you guys started the project.
All right, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. My name is David Grande, and I'm one of the directors of the Elvove ecosystem. My background is in in banking and finance, where I've had about 30 years experience. The Elvove board is made up of 5 other directors, which again have had extensive, over 25 plus years in the banking and financing sector. We all, as part of our everyday experience in that sector, identified very early that there was an opportunity that the traditional banking system or the traditional finance system would move into a digital space. And in 2019, we started developing Elvove and the Elvove ecosystem with a requirement that basically tokenization and digital finance would be the way of the future. So after 5 years of planning and changing and identifying what needs were required in the market, Elvove token was launched in December 2024. We've now, as an ecosystem, got a swap platform. We've also got a staking platform, and within the coming days, we'll be releasing our tokenization platform. So Elvove comes with over 300 years of traditional banking and financing experience. And we, as a board or as a group of directors, are very experienced in the traditional finance space, very experienced in how that will formulate within the digital finance space. So Elvove token comes to you with a great deal of scope, a lot of future development, a lot of innovative development, and we're pleased to announce that we've now got a partnership with GoldDiggers as our marketing agent, and we're very excited about what the future brings for the ecosystem.
Interesting. That was an overall, picture of what you guys have had going and the project. I really appreciate, and definitely we are also excited to have had, great projects with real utilities, having partnership with us, because that is what the team behind GoldDiggers have always done, trying to look for projects with real life utility and real life assets, projects with long-term goals and not short-term goals, because they have the interest of the investors in the platform as hard. So we are happy to also welcome you guys here. So I think to dive into sectors of what you guys are trying to build, are you guys venturing into like the AI mutation engine? And if you are, I want you to like walk us through the architecture and decision logic of the mutation engine. How is it dynamically computed?
Well, look, it's important for a project to understand, how revolutionary changes can be imported or innovated within the system. So Elvove token is open, or the Elvove ecosystem is open to AI, and we're utilizing AI within our trading and staking sectors of the ecosystem. So the mutation of AI into anything which has got future goals and future innovation, and it is important because obviously AI is where everything's moving to. So, the ability for AI to trade instruments and to trade currencies a lot quicker than a human trader obviously has to be taken into account. And basically, where we are with the system is that part of our system is the ability for people to earn a passive income through staking or through trading, and part of that is to to have an adequate AI intervention that will enable to manage that in real time. So Evolve, obviously, when it comes to tokenization or situations like that, obviously the requirement for AI is not required, but we're quite happy to take on AI where it is suitable within the ecosystem, and in future plans that we have a future plan to create an EMI through the system where people will be able to do cross-border payments, and obviously the use of AI to facilitate all that is going to be very important. So within our scope, AI is definitely part of the future plans and innovation. And initially within our trading sector of the ecosystem is where AI will be used to manage volume, the trading quantities, and to actually enable people to have an adequate staking system that gives them the return or passive income to whatever value they're looking for.
Interesting. Thank you so much for going through that. I really appreciate. So I think the next aspect of it I wanted to ask about is the Darwin meme smart contract. So could you put us through how does this smart contract reconcile mimetic value with social utility?
All right, so obviously part of the tokenization model is that the user has security and has representation for whatever investment they choose to make for whatever item is available at the time. So bearing in mind that our tokenization platform will represent real world assets. So, give it property, fine art, anything of value. So there's two sides to that question. I don't think I need to explain what a smart contract is. I'm pretty sure that your listeners are well aware of what a smart contract is. But in essence, what we're providing is, if we have a property to be tokenized where there's shares in the property of they call it $10 a share, and there's 1 million shares. Those 1 million people that buy that tokenized the valued or fractional purchase to buy that property need to have some form of security and some form of evidence that they own that particular portion of that tokenized asset. The only way that you can do that effectively, if you're using blockchain, is through the smart contract technology, which we have. So in essence, if you come into the Evolve tokenization platform and bought $10 worth of $1 million property, you would have a smart contract that A, proves that, B, allows you to sell that, and C, gives you the right of ownership. So that's where the smart contracts are going to be used to great effect. And I guess it's really no different to being able to prove that you are the rightful owner of a particular asset, which in this case, without a smart contract, you wouldn't be able to do that. So that's how we're utilizing smart contracts within our platform.
And so I thought that the contract seems to handle both mutation rules and governance logic. So can you clarify the separation of concerns and whether the Darwin meme contract is upgradable?
Sorry, can you just repeat that again? I lost you there for a little bit.
Okay, I said I saw that the contract seems to handle both mutation governance logic. So can you clarify the separation of concerns and whether the Darwin name contract is upgradable?
Well, the part of our system is that our smart contracts will be audited every quarter. So if external audits are important in tokenization to ensure that you have a transparent system. So in that form, if we have a tokenized asset that there's 100 people that have taken part, in order to close that particular asset off and pay the rightful owner, which whoever the asset belongs to, we have to ensure that each particular asset is audited. Each particular asset is basically signed off and said, yep, okay, we have 100 smart contracts here that make this asset finished. The auditor then signs off on that, and then we can fund the owner the money that's been raised as a result of that tokenized asset. So that's phase one. Phase two is that part of our expansion or part of our movement forward is, as a company, we want to have our own assets. So we want to be able to go out there and buy our own properties and tokenize them back through the system. And what that does is that gives more security to the project. It gives more financial viability to the project, and at the same point in time, because everything is smart contract, our users through the form of governance can check our process and in real time understand what our asset holdings are.
Nice. I really appreciate how detailed you are about your answers, delving too deep to make it understandable. Really appreciate it. So next, I think I would like us to talk about the tokenomics and deflationary mechanism that you guys are incorporating in the project. So maybe you could as well just walk us through the total supply of the Elvove token and the kind of deflationary mechanics you guys are using to ensure that there is the right circulation in the project.
All right. Well, when we started this whole process in the form of how we were putting this all together, it was interesting to sort of know that trying to get something launched in this space, you have 100 different suggestions as to how it should be done, and how the market's going to receive it, and all that sort of stuff, which at the end of the day becomes very, very hard to sort of nail down which way you're going to go, because you end up with an idea, but then you end up with 100 different variations of that idea. So Elvove is actually on 3 rails. So we're on the TRX, Solana, and BNB rails. And we did that to enable a greater adoption with people not having to swap a particular token to buy Elvove, but also to enable people to utilize their own holdings to be able to make Elvove accessible for them. So when we looked at the tokenomics, we looked at the same supply across those particular rails and any other rails that we choose to add at a later point in time. We had a meeting today, for example, where looking to support smaller rails in conjunction with the 3 rails that we're doing at the moment, and that's something that we would consider in the future. But if we look at the allocation breakdown, we've allocated tokens to public sale, which we're well on the way of that, which represent 50%. The total allocation is 500 billion tokens. And then we've got 15% to team and advisors, which are locked for a period of 2 years. So Elvove token, you will never see any of its rightful owners selling their tokens for a period of 2 years. So which is very different to current projects where you see that the first people that generally tend to dump their tokens are the owners. In our white paper and our governance and our structure, none of our directors can sell any of our tokens for a period of 24 months. So again, that gives users a fair bit of comfort. We've got a reserve fund that we're keeping at 10%. Marketing and partnerships, which we've allocated 15% of our tokenomics, and then staking and rewards, which at the moment we've been doing a fair bit of promotion and bonus payments on tokens, etc. That represents about 10%. So that's per rail. Okay, so at the moment, you can basically say that there's 10% staking and rewards allocated on TRON, Solana, and BNB. Okay, so that's how our tokenomics is basically being done. Given the fact that Elvove is a multi-utility phased network, it's basically a no-brainer to say that for any particular user, we're looking at a fair amount of security, a fair amount of transparency, and we've been able to make the project sustainable, given the fact that we are providing what we're providing. Since launch in December 2024, everything that we've said we were going to do, we've done. We've brought our swap platform, we've brought our staking platform. Our tokenization platform is going to be launched a month early. So we're very evident on making sure that all the information that we provide, as far as providing scarcity and giving adoption the best form of opportunity, we've done, and our tokenomics is well within its quoted phase. So we're very happy with the fact that we are bringing a great deal of security for our users, given that it's a long-term project and given that it's an investment in the long-term future. We have been able to say, okay, it's an investment in the long-term future. However, if you want to earn a passive income, you can stake. If you don't want to, hold our tokens, you can swap out of them. So we're not trapping people into a project. We're giving our users a great deal of opportunity to make decisions. And now with tokenization, they're going to be able to make the decision to diversify their portfolios, which I think is very exciting.
Nice. Now that you explanation, try to go through separate aspect like the private sorry, excuse me, I'm trying to okay, so I said meaning you went through various aspects of what you guys are offering in Elvove, like the trading platform, the private lending pools, and each of these sectors affects how the tokenomics is structured. So one of the questions I actually wanted to ask concerning the tokenomics is, I know you guys have a creator-centric model. So how do you avoid over early adopters and introducing Ponzi-like inflation? And are there mechanism in place to penalize dormant wallets or content vaulting to game social metrics?
It's an interesting question because we've just earlier this evening we finished having a meeting with our auditors, and we use a company called Deloitte, which is one of the largest accountancy auditing firms globally, and there was a question that was raised at that particular meeting. So Elvove is not about penalising people, and even though in this space there's a very big push towards people doing the wrong thing. We're not about penalising people. So dormant accounts per se will not be penalised. However, we are looking at setting a 24-month limit that if it's dormant, the account will be closed. But we're not in the business of penalising. When it comes down to trying to keep the integrity of the platform in check, our security section or security team will be ensuring that all the documentation which is supplied as ownership documentation for the tokenization platform is obviously being checked and cross-checked to ensure that whoever is listing an asset to be tokenized is the rightful owner. If the documentation isn't provided to ensure ownership, well then you will not be able to list the asset for tokenization. Three things that we're that we're not negotiable on is KYC, adherence to the AML policy, and proof of ownership. If you can't KYC your account, you won't be part of our ecosystem. It's as simple as that. If you can't adhere to AML policy, that is source of funds, proof of funds, and proof of ownership, you will not be part of the platform. And thirdly is if you can't prove ownership, you won't be part of our platform either. They're not punishments; they're regulations that need to be met. And because we are in the financial sector, these things have to be adhered to as a minimum. Now, as I said before, they're not punishments; they're requirements. And we're experiencing that at the moment, where people don't want to KYC themselves, but they want to buy the token, so they won't buy it from our website; they'll go and buy it from somewhere else, and that's okay for now. However, once tokenization is open, if you want to earn a passive income through tokenization and own part of any asset, there is a requirement for you to be KYC. Now, that coincides with different jurisdictions that require us to make available KYC or AML compliance. So, as a minimum, we need to abide by that. And if you use the word punished, I don't like to use the word punished, but if you want to participate, you have to meet those requirements. That's not because we want you to, that's because we have to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it just brings a whole different perspective on how you guys are operating. There is just distinct difference to what we have been seeing out there, because we have a lot of projects, trying to go into that field, and the way they set their system, it looks like they only want to take from their investors. So to see that you guys have already discussed this and implemented it, I really appreciate your explanation on that. Thank you so much for the clarification. So, I think another part of it I was very interested in is the private lending pools. And a part of it that got my attention is seeing that, it was stated that this model would keep things stable by protecting the firm's investors by effectively using their money to purchase real and appreciating real and appreciating assets. So I was curious to know, because when you're doing something like this, you have to be very careful. So is there a system you guys use to, know which of these assets would appreciate? Because we know how the market is volatile. You never can guarantee anything. Everyone is just like, do your own research. There are disclaimers. So to see that you guys have this confidence, I really wanted to know how you guys are going through this.
All right. Well, bear in mind that in the initial introduction, I mentioned that there's 300 years plus of experience in the board of directors, and there's all of us, all six of us have been in the private equity market for quite some time. Like me myself, I've been in the private equity market for 13 years. So private equity or private lending pools are designed for high capital appreciation asset. Okay, so if we have a client that has a major subdivision or major development and they're looking to raise equity, we can put an equity pool into our tokenization platform and get people to invest in that equity pool for a guaranteed return. So private equity lending from a borrower's perspective is expensive. So it can run at 2.75% or 3% to 5% per month. Okay, so if we put together a private equity pool in our tokenization platform and we're seeking to raise $10 million, what that does is, firstly, we would have $17 million worth of security. That's to start with. So if someone's got $17 million worth of security that we could take, we would lend $10 million against that security. So number one is our investors are only ever exposed to 70% of the value. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is the investors that participate in those pools would get a monthly return because all equity loans are repaid every month, just as a standard normal loan that you guys may be aware of. So if you borrow money, you pay a repayment every month. That repayment that's paid every month would then be divided by the amount of people that have participated in that tokenized lending pool. Third thing is that with that in mind, it becomes a very exciting sort of investment because number one is you're totally 100% secured. That's number one. Number two, you've got a passive income, and number three is every equity loan never goes for the term; it's always extended. Okay, so if you lend someone $10 million for 12 months, chances are it's going to go for 2 years. Okay, so there's that opportunity. If you're looking at it from a perspective of what appreciation it can happen, the average home market or the average development market appreciates somewhere between 10 and 15% per annum, given its original value to its gross realization value, which is its end value, which allows our particular investors that are invested in that particular pool to earn money on the appreciation. So, we might lend them 10 million on an equity share of say 10%. At the end of the day, when that equity is sold out, it could be worth 20%. So it's a way of getting a passive income by the repayment of the equity, and then a percentage of its equity at the end of its term. Okay, so the private lending pools within the tokenization system is a very powerful thing, because if you think that firstly we only lend to businesses or companies, we don't lend to individuals. So we're not lending to individual people. It's all company and business. We're very highly secured by way of our loan to value ratio. So we're only lending anywhere between 65 and 70% of the total value. So we've got a great deal of equity for our security. That's a very good thing. Secondly, equity pools, as I mentioned before, are they're expensive. So whoever's taking on money from our private lending pools has to have the ability to repay whatever interest rate that may be. And a lot of these equity loans are private arrangements. So, there's no set return at 10%. It could be 10 for one deal and 15% for another. They're negotiated privately. So giving giving this ability for our users to earn passive income, to be highly secured. I don't think there's anything in the market at the moment, in the crypto market, that gives users that ability. You can stake crypto. I'm very well aware of that because we've got our own staking platform. But when it comes to a user putting in, say, $1,000 or $100 or whatever they put in into a private equity pool that's got a smart contract as security, you've got a passive income every month. You're very highly secured, and you've got the opportunity to make appreciation on that asset as an equity, as part of the equity lend. I mean, to me, that represents a very good investment.
Nice. Thank you so much for answering that question. So, I think let's just take two more questions before we head to some community question, because I know there are a lot pumped up for us in today's AMA. So, one other question that's very important, considering the kind of project you guys are running, and it's something that would eventually go global and international. I want to know the kind of legal framework you guys have going on, and are you guys maybe partnered with some legal companies to help handle any security or financial problems that might arise in the future?
Oh, very good question again. These are great questions. Look, when part of our, people said, "Oh, why is it taking you 5 years to get to the market?" We're all ex-bankers, so the first thing about whatever we do is, do we need permits? Do we need licenses? Do we need abilities to trade? And the only way you can do that is through legal firms. Okay, so first thing we did was we hired a legal firm to sort of sit down with us and sort of give us a framework as to where and how we're going to be able to operate globally and to do it without breaching any of the jurisdictional laws. So that was all a really good idea until we sat down with a law firm and we very quickly worked out that we needed to have several law firms to be able to give us jurisdictional information as to whether we need and what we need and how we need and licenses and so forth. So that's what we've done. So at the moment, the Elvove ecosystem has 5 global law firms that we talk to and that are actively seeking jurisdictional approvals to operate in certain areas. So, for example, in Australia, to operate tokenization, you need an AFSL license, and even if you have that, you need to formulate the tokenization under a unit trust. Okay, so that's number one. So we've done that. The AFSL license is due to be announced in the next coming days, so that'll coincide with the launching of our the tokenization platform. However, if we don't have jurisdictional approval, tokenization won't be available in that country. It's that simple. Through Southeast Asia, which includes Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, etc. Tokenization is fine. Through Africa, it's fine. America is obviously another area or another jurisdiction that we're awaiting the adequate licensing to be able to operate. However, as I've said before, we will not take on any property. We will not take on any asset in countries in which we're not jurisdictionally approved to do so. As they come online, obviously that'll be something that will be announced, and obviously then at that point in time we can then operate within that jurisdiction. But to answer your question as a whole, we have multi-law firms that are out seeking information. I mean, we've got law firms in Indonesia, we've got law firms in Australia, we've got law firms in America, law firms in Europe, we've got law firms in Asia. And within those particular firms, the jurisdictional approvals are sought. And we have to have that, otherwise we're breaking the law. So given that the main part of tokenization is the proof of ownership, a lot of the Southeast Asians are very familiar with smart contracts and what they mean and how they operate, and also how they can be audited, which is also very important. In countries like Australia, where crypto isn't, at the same speed as, say, Singapore, for example, that's taken a little bit more time because you have to, provide the evidence to ensure that these people in these jurisdictional areas understand what you're doing. And given, the scams that have occurred, within the space over the last given times, it's important to make sure that, wherever you're trading, you have got the right jurisdiction. So that's how we've managed to navigate it. It's not exactly a fun process because, dealing with all these different law firms is obviously one thing, but the second thing is that in a lot of jurisdictional areas that don't accept tokenization, you've then, if they do accept it, that you've then got the other basis of whether it's something that's going to change and whether you need to have stuff in place now for the change that's coming in 6 months. Like Indonesia, for example, at the moment you can tokenize anything, but there are laws coming in the next given 3 to 6 months that'll change that. Okay, so we've had to accept the fact that we can tokenize in Indonesia, however, plan for the next 6 months to ensure that we're not interrupted in that time. So it is a full-time process to make sure that you meet all the jurisdictional requirements.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I think what is more interesting is even on the roadmap, despite having being thorough with these different compliance and regulatory approvals already, you guys are still looking to explore in additional jurisdictions. I think that is very impressive to see that you guys have taken note of this and seen it as important in your project. It adds this kind of security and confidence to even investors when looking at your project, to invest and, pick an interest in it. So thank you so much for that. I think at this point, let's see if we community questions. Because if we keep going on and on, there are a lot of questions
Yeah,
asked.
you can. I could talk about it for the next 3 days. Sorry.
There are a lot of questions to ask, but I would also like to give it to those who are looking to invest in your project too, because I wouldn't be the only one investing. I don't have that much money.
No. Well, for us, can I just say quickly, it's not an investment that you're making in Evolve Token. I mean, Evolve Token is basically a way that you guys as users can make a passive income, and I mean, I think that's important because we're very focused on whoever puts money into our project gets a return. So something that you need to keep in mind.
Thank you so much for noting that out. And I truly agree with you because there are different sectors like the trading platform that you can definitely get involved in, and even the staking. So yes, you guys have a lot that incentivize those who are interested in the project. So thank you so much for pointing that out. So I unmuted Jordan. So Jordan, you can ask a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I do hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. You can ask a question.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so it's a really great project. Love your presentation, by the way, and the time that you made out to come and talk to us. So my question is just going to be simple. I just wanted to know, in what ways is your project's facility going to improve the onboarding experience for the institution and the retail users that are not going to be, familiar with the Web3?
Hey, Jordan, can I get you to repeat the question and just turn your volume up a little bit? You're a little bit faint.
Jordan, can you try repeating your question a bit louder?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I hope this is better.
Awesome. That's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to
Go,
know
mate.
what ways that you guys, your projects, the versatility of the project improves the onboarding experience for, institution and retail users that are not familiar with Web3.
Okay, so institutions onboarding, we'll leave that to one side for a minute. The users that we're trying to make this the onboarding process as seamless as we possibly can. Okay, bear in mind that, as I said before, that there are three critical areas that we have to make sure that that all the boxes are ticked, and that is the KYC basis. Make sure that we comply with our AML policies for who we're taking on. They're not negotiable. Okay, so part of the onboarding process for you guys as users is obviously full name, where do you live, your identification, and so on and so forth. It's just very standard. Okay, so that's as easy as it can be. I think it's stuff that you guys, if you're using exchanges, would be well aware of. It's nothing different, and it's something that us as owners, when we get audited, if we've got people using our system that haven't got KYCs or in some way, shape, or form breach AML policies, we're going to get in trouble. So that's not what we want, okay? Because that basically jeopardizes the integrity of the platform. For commercial or institutional onboarding, to give you an idea, we're onboarding a hedge fund in the coming days, and part of the onboarding process there is that we have to check that they meet regulation guidelines. So are they effectively licensed? Do they have the right AML policy in place? How do they meet our KYC? What is their source of funding? And at the end of the day, we have various certificates that they have to sign off on to ensure that the integrity of their money is part of and ticks all the boxes within their AMLs, right? So there is a bit of onboarding for institutional stuff that is difficult, however, has to be done in order to meet the requirements of different jurisdictions. I mean, if we talk about, for example, Africa, KYC and all that sort of stuff is not as important. However, within our platform, there has to be certain onboarding stuff that has to be done, and KYC and is as a minimum for individual users that we need. Now, you can go on our swap platform, for example, and you don't need to KYC yourself. You can do a swap there without any issue. If you're going to stake and we're going to have to pay you a return, which is why you stake, you will need to KYC yourself. So if you're going to tokenize, you need to KYC yourself. So at the end of the day, it's in requirement to what are the laws behind the platform. Okay, so tokenization requires KYC and AML. Staking requires KYC and AML, and yet we have to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much for the answer to my question. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for the opportunity to ask. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jody. Jordan, for asking that question. So let's have Gabriel. Gabriel, are you there on the mic? You can ask the question, mate.
Thank you for having me here. So I just wanted to ask, please break down how transparency and automation.
Gabriel, are you there? I think we lost him.
I
Okay,
think
well,
it was heading towards the transparency side, yes, from what I got.
okay. Let's just have Elson. Elson, you have been unmuted. You can ask the question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Monshine, for having me. So my question is a real quick one. What legal framework governs tokenized assets, and how do you ensure that they comply with regulations across different countries?
Okay, well, I think we've touched on that in questions before, but for
Yeah.
the purpose of the question, thank you for that. I'll just sort of repeat. We meet the different country jurisdictions based on their jurisdiction. Okay, so as I mentioned before, when we launch our tokenization platform in the coming days, there will be countries that will not be allowed to tokenize assets until we have the suitable jurisdiction approval. Now, there's two countries I can tell you straight off the bat: Australia and the USA at the moment. Once we launch, will not be able to tokenize any asset on our platform because we don't have the approvals for those jurisdictions to be able to operate. That will change as time goes on because obviously as we're gaining jurisdictional approval, they'll come on board. So that's how we're managing that, is that over the last 5 years, we've gone to different jurisdictions and said, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. And they've said, yep, you need approvals. This is what you need to do. Or no, you don't need approvals. You're quite okay to operate. So when we launch tokenization in the coming days, the countries that will be able to participate, we have either full approval or you don't need approval to operate within those jurisdictions.
Right, that's great. Actually, I joined a little bit late, so thanks for going over that again for me. Thank you very much. I really
Not a
appreciate
problem. You're more than welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elson, for throwing that in there. It's normal to sometimes not join at the beginning of the AMA. So let's have Abdul. Abdul, you have been unmuted. You can ask a question, mate.
Okay, good day, everyone. I'll be asking what technical or protocol level innovations will the Evolve token introduce to seamlessly support both fungible and non-fungible assets on a single platform?
All right. Well, basically, we're running, towards being able to have multi categories within our tokenization platform, and realistically, I think at the end of the day, we've sort of got the platform to the point now where our security aspect is right. Our auditing access is right. I think our governance is very transparent from the point of view that we're planning to have monthly meetings for our holders to know what what we're doing, what we've done, what are our future decisions going to be able to provide financial information in real time, to basically create this transparency. And then we've also got our own developers, okay, which the developers, as far as are always looking for updates, upgrades, additions, changes. They form part of our support network as well, which obviously deal with any technical issue that may need urgent responding. So we believe that at this point in time, from a technical perspective, the platform will operate seamlessly. However, in any technical type of platform, you always need to have someone there for anything that may not function that way. But we've beta tested our tokenization platform, or marketplace as we choose to call it, for the last 6 weeks, and we're happy with the technical side of it. It is a very user friendly platform, so there's nothing on there that is over the top and people are not going to be able to understand. The tokenization side of it is very, very simple. Okay, and we've kept it that way because if you don't, then all it does is basically expand your support team. Okay, and it puts pressure on them. So I think from a technical aspect, I think you'll be happy to know our security is probably the highest, probably over the top with what we have. So it's a very secure, easy to use platform.
Does that answer your question, Abdul?
Yes, thank you very much for the answer. I really appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome. Annabelle, are you there? You can ask a question.
Okay, thank you, Monshine. Okay, so you mentioned private lending pools. So are these liquidity pools underwritten with real-world assets as collateral, or do they rely solely on algorithmic risk scoring?
Okay, so our equity pools or private lending pools, whichever way you choose to name them, will be dealing with real-world assets only. Okay, so everything that we do is based around real-world asset. Okay, so we're not interested in raising equity pools to invest in a new form of gym equipment, or we're only interested in real-world assets which are valued and have a security certificate of some sort. So given a property has a mortgage, a fine piece of art has a certificate of authenticity, they're the only things that we're interested in getting involved in. We're not interested in getting involved in things that are ideas, because at the end of the day, that's not a real world asset at that time. It's an idea. One of our directors is the head of equity lending for one of the major global banks, and he's the person that will be looking after the actual security and the actual asset that's coming on board in that part of our ecosystem. Now, at the end of the day, for security purposes, the best form of security is real estate. Okay, that's the best form of security. As to fine art, again, I wouldn't know the difference between a real Renoir and a fake one. Okay, so I'm probably not the best person to talk about fine art. But when it comes to real estate, if you can touch it and see it and it's there, that's the form of the best security. The other aspect of that is, what is its value? Okay, so we will only be using valuations from approved panels. Okay, so valuers that only value for banks. We won't be using any private valuers or any valuers that aren't on a panel for a bank. And the other thing is that we won't be accepting any valuations that are older than 3 months old. So we have a very stringent mandate that anyone that's coming to us for private pools for money, they have to meet that. And if they don't meet that, well then we don't look after them. But when your question is private lending pools or private equity pools, there is a difference. So private lending pool is just a loan. So our private lending pools will have an amount of money that someone wants to borrow, that we're going to be able to hold the asset, and that's a private lending pool, and that might be for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. And then there's a private equity pool, which may be part of a larger program, a larger development, a larger construction, a high-rise building, where people will say, okay, well, we'll pay you 10% a month, plus 10% per annum, beg your pardon, plus give you 10% equity in the actual building. So there's slight differences there, but for a user, for example, for yourself, if you put money into either a private lending pool or equity pool, the rate of return for you would be, as a passive income, would be fantastic. So they're things that you need to, sort of look at. But that's the difference between both and how we assess both.
Okay, thank you very much. That answers my question.
Yeah, that was a detailed explanation to that question, and it's something I'm happy we touched on too during this section of the AMA. So I see a lot of questions being dropped in the comments section, and I'm so sorry, guys, that I'm not able to go through the text question as only live question were gotten to in today's AMA. But you can definitely join their social links. But uh number of people is they're saying that by joining the community and they were either restricted or banned. So is there a problem with that? Can that be fixed, please?
Look, I don't. The only people that are restricted and banned are people that come into the community trying to sell something. Okay, so we've had. If you come into the community as a user, or if you come into the community and you're respectful of the community, you won't be banned. Okay, I can guarantee you that. The only people that are getting banned in our community are people that we've that are coming in and trying to sell us raids and trying to sell us shilling and trying to sell us all sorts of stuff. Then you will be banned. Okay, because that's not what our community is all about. If you're looking at coming into our community to discuss business, what you should be doing is DM one of the admins or DM myself while I'm active in the group. Not come into the community and sort of start putting up adverts for whatever you're trying to conduct. So I don't agree with that particular question. If you're banned from our community, you're banned for a purpose. You're not banned because you've come in there and you've done the right thing. So unfortunately, if you have been, whoever this person is, you've come into our community and you've done the wrong thing, and that's we're not interested in having a community full of spam. So one thing you'll learn about us, and this is not negotiable either, is we're very straight up and down. Okay, so we're not here to create any issues for anybody, and we expect people that come into our community not to create issues for our members, our users, or for us. So unfortunately, if you have been banned or taken out of the community, it's because you've come in and done something wrong. Okay, and I can't be any more direct than that.
Okay, I definitely respect what you have just explained, but I wouldn't have brought this up here if it was just anyone. It was because these certain people that talked about it are people that I know in GoldDiggers community. So I definitely know they wouldn't have tried to sell anything or advertise anything because I know these ones.
Well, if you can give me a list of those people,
Yeah,
or if you can get in contact with me and let me know who they are,
yeah,
I'll review that and fix it if I have to.
yeah. Caleb will do that. Caleb would definitely do that. So I think this is where we'll be wrapping things up. But finally, before we close the VC, while you give your concluding statements, you could just as well walk us through you guys' marketing plans. What are you guys doing in terms of marketing? And how you definitely agree with me that marketing plans definitely affect the roadmap, what you guys are building up, and the kind of milestone you guys are planning to cross the next few weeks and months. So you could just walk us through that while giving your final concluding statement.
Sure. So before I go, thanks very much for everyone that's been on here. It's been a pleasure of mine to talk about the program, and as you can probably see, we are very passionate about it and very committed to the success of the system. So the Elvove ecosystem has so many exciting things to come in the future. As I mentioned before, we're actively seeking EMI approval as we speak. to be able to ensure that cross-border payments can be facilitated through the Elvove system at a later point in time. And what we're looking at doing is making sure that we can provide systems from from financial institution to digital finance space over the coming years, and that's something that that we will make sure that we keep adding innovative financial products to our platform, and that's that's something that we're highly committed to. From the point of view of being able to market the system and where we choose to go with it, we've had a lot of stop starts when it comes to marketing, and we haven't had the right team. I think our partnership with GoldDiggers now will ensure a very smooth marketing future for our platform. And I think Caleb and his team will ensure the very best for Elvove token moving forward. What I can say is close, and I don't want to keep talking because I could talk for hours, but what I will say is that what we're bringing to you today and tonight is a system of tokenization and staking. Over the next 2 years, we want to bring to you not only tokenization and staking, but international transfers, potential third-tier banking systems. We want to bring all of what your guys are used to in a traditional finance space to a digital space. Okay, so that's our plan. We're already working on that. We're already planning on that. We're already trying to get the system adapted to be able to give you what we call ourselves a one-stop shop within the digital finance space. Okay, so we won't be satisfied until we can provide all that to our users. Once we can do that, then we're satisfied, because we are then a digital finance institution, which is where we're heading to. So what I can suggest is that an investment into Elvove token today at its ridiculously low price will be a benefit, because we know what value will come to this system over the coming months and years and whatever else we choose to have. We are very focused on making sure that our users are happy, and we will ensure that our governance and our user transparency is 100% at all times. Okay, so as I said before, I'm very direct. Ask me a question, you'll get an answer. That's not any of this sort of stuff that the directors hide behind and you can't get through to them. I'm on Telegram, I'm on Twitter. If you want to send me a message, you send me a message, you'll get an answer. Okay, so that's what this system is all about. We just want to make sure that our users are happy, that we're bringing innovative technology in the digital space to the system. We'll let Caleb and his crew at GoldDiggers do what they have to do to market the system. We're talking to some very big institutions that want to come on board. So at the end of the day, I'm confident with the experience that's here, that we can bring a DeFi system to you that you've never seen before, and I'm very excited about that. Thank you very much for joining me. If there's any questions at the end of this AMA that you need answered, please look for our community and reach out, and obviously we will answer any question that we can. Thank you very much for your time.
Interesting. It was a great section with you so far, and it just goes to show how knowledgeable you guys are about your project. It was a great one, and I'll advise everyone to do well to go through their website and join their social links. Follow them on X, follow them on Telegram, and ask whatever questions you are if we're not gotten to during this AMA. Thank you all so much.
Not a problem. Thank you very much again.